Mobility freedom. When planning to live off the grid, initially, you may find yourself in a place that is utterly inadequate, unwelcoming, or even hostile for this lifestyle. You may find it wiser to just move to a better place. This new place may be down the road, or another nation. Situations will vary greatly. Hopefully you will have the ability, resources, and the freedom to make your move. Many areas of the world have restrictions on mobility, and in many cases you may have to do your best where you currently live. For example, you may not be able to easily leave your nation or sometimes even your community due to a variety of reasons: financial, political, religious, or due to conflict, family needs, or needs of your community. But moving, I believe, is a viable way to make a stand in what you believe. If your surroundings are against you, while other places are willing to support you, then it is wise to go to other places when possible. And moving is a way to vote and send a clear message to the current leaders and inhabitants of that area. That message is that this area and its environment are not suitable for you and others like you. And once you and others like you vacate, the absence will impact that area's economy and social fabric, just enough to make your message heard. It may be subtle or it may be silent, but I believe the message will be received one way or another, and in the process you will likely be more free and happy. We must demand freedom of movement from our societies, because to curtail it may mean to limit the safety, health, or happiness of many. As an immigrant, I absolutely support free migration and open borders. I believe there would be greater order, peace, equality, and happiness in the world if people were allowed to move about freely. Think of the United States and how its citizens can easily move from state to state without any documentation or questions. This is a great benefit that has stabilized the entire nation and has generated great metropolises in desired areas, and deserted wastelands in undesired ones. For example, when many of the good manufacturing jobs left Detroit, so did a great number of that city's population. If this population was somehow restricted from leaving, the area would have become unsustainable and overflowing with extreme poverty and countless other problems. In this fashion, if the world's population was allowed to move about freely, I believe the populations would redistribute in a more sustainable manner and alleviate the many problems caused by overpopulation. Of course, this is a prospect that is, right now, inconceivable and absurd to most people and governments, but I believe it is one that we will eventually reach as a humanity. I believe the main barrier to open borders is artificial nationalism and racism that are taught to most children. Once you are off the grid, you are more likely to relocate with greater ease. You may have more time, resources, and finances to go to more places, have more options as destinations. You may have less dependency on your employer, or you may not have an employer. You may have less bills and less financial responsibilities. And you may have more money to spend on vacations, trips, or relocations. But, as an off-gridder, you may find you need little or no money to go on vacations and trips. Some off-gridders may choose a transient lifestyle, where they live in a motorhome, recreational vehicle, or a camper van. Yet, others may get more extreme and live from a backpack and walk or bicycle to many areas of the country or the world. I have discussed these extreme lifestyle options at length in my series, Living Off the Grid Renegade Style. Check it out. In summary, freedom of mobility is both a requirement and a benefit of living off the grid. You should not feel that you are permanently nailed to a certain location, and you should be able to vote with your feet whenever necessary. Freedom from employment. Since most of us are employed in a field we don't really care about, and we spend about half of our active lives in our jobs, it would be immensely beneficial to live off the employment grid. The employment grid is simply your need to be employed, a status where being employed is optional, not necessary. Most corporations and the so-called employers participate within one of the most despotic and cruel systems we have devised, capitalism. Under this system, authoritarianism comes from your dire need to earn money. It would take another book to describe how I can make such a claim about the most widespread economic and social system in the world, but briefly, just think of the heart of capitalism, the corporation. In the US, the corporation is a sort of dictatorship within a democracy. It is a place where you are effectively owned for part of your day, where you are routinely told, by someone declared as your superior, what to do, how to do things, and how to behave. In a corporation, demands are generally made of you without your opinion or vote, and decisions are routinely made about the business that affect your life, such as working conditions, working schedules, and tasks, mostly without your input. and you may be easily fired and replaced. This fact is almost constantly being reminded to you, for your continued submission and servitude to your boss. It is no wonder there is an epidemic of discrimination and abuse worldwide and daily, within countless corporations under capitalism. If you even partially accept any of these traits of corporations as true, then you've begun to appreciate the value of freedom of employment. So let's describe this freedom a bit more. As established, living off the grid will likely have positive outcomes: greater time freedom, increased profitable skills and knowledge, smarter and more efficient finances, and greater freedom of mobility. These perks all contribute to your freedom from employment. Again, freedom from employment is the freedom to choose to be employed or not, to be overemployed, to be underemployed, or to be independently employed. Independently employed could mean being a business owner, or an independent skilled trade worker, self-employed. Freedom from employment may mean being able to switch employers more easily, or gain your due respect and responsibility at your current employment. I write gain because this is not always given when earned. In a highly unfair system such as our current capitalistic system, you often have to demand fair treatment, fair pay and promotions. Freedom from employment may mean earning your fair share and perhaps being able to retire earlier. Or being able to work less and not feel the economic pinch. Simply, freedom from employment is just having more choices in your employment situation. Being highly self-sufficient and off the grid surely makes you a more valuable employee if you choose to be one. You have achieved what only a few people in any community have. I strongly believe that large modern towns and cities generally are concentrations of wasteful people and squandered resources. Their lavish lifestyles waste many resources, and pollution and inefficient methods are constantly used. For example, most transportation vehicles are gas-operated, and most buildings are energy hogs. So, having achieved a high level of efficiency in this environment takes much discipline, skill, knowledge, and willpower. All of these are valuable traits you have, or will have learned and earned during your off-grid efforts. Again, it takes a significant level of understanding of many technologies and concepts that are widely used in industrial and commercial environments, surely making you a very attractive prospective member of any company. These give you a few advantages. You will likely have more choice for positions and employers, more choice in benefits and pay that you may require, and more choices in your working conditions such as hours, place, etc. You may also have more freedom to decide to go into business. Your efficiency, expanded skills, and valuable personal traits may propel you into a successful business. You may choose to get involved in more career fields after you find that efficiency is a critical ingredient for success. Or you may get involved in one or more of the many technologies you learned about, used, or developed during your off-grid efforts. For example, I got involved in solar technologies as a curiosity in 2010, and have since learned about it enough to work in the solar industry as a PV technician in the field. You may also focus on one technology and develop it to a high degree as a product or service. Or you may corral a few technologies and embark in a multi-product or multi-service business. These and more choices may be at your disposal for employment or earning income because of living off the employment grid. The benefits of the greater choice and freedom of employment depend on what you choose to do with your time and skills. You may find yourself with much more time for personal and family activities, or you may choose to work less or not work for any employer. Or you may find yourself with much more financial and material resources if you choose to earn more money. So, these benefits seem to revolve around time and material benefits. I strongly believe if you keep your efficient, reasonable, and wise mentality during and after you reach any or all of these benefits, you will surely be a happier, more productive, and wholesome person as a result. Privacy. Privacy can be described as the personal ability and choice to live anonymously and free from unwanted surveillance by others. It is living free from the discriminatory and/or unreasonable watch from individuals or technology. It is living in your personal digital spaces, free from data collection by any automated system or individuals. Privacy is living without the fear of deceptive practices that trap you or coerce you into giving up your personal data in exchange for goods and services. It is keeping any identifying or unique personal trait unknown to any individual, institution, or system, and maintaining control over who or what you share those with. Privacy is not absolute. I believe it should not be. Absolute privacy is absolute isolation. And humanity is a social species dependent on the company and cooperations of others, and dependent on many benefits of a larger community. It has been proven that human development and healthy behavior is dependent on the exposure to learning with many other individuals, and a reasonable diversity of exposure is healthy for all sorts of reasons. With these in mind, others will often want to watch your behavior and actions. Also, others may distrust you and may want to determine your intent by watching you. It is often good for others to see you, for example to see and opine on your work and your products, or just to interact with you. Also, abhorrent, harmful, or potentially criminal behavior can be detected and regulated by others, when you are watched, as we all experiment and make mistakes, and others may help you realize and correct those bad behaviors and mistakes. But this watching may become excessive, unreasonable, and not based on good intentions. As adults, we are expected to apply our learned behaviors and skills, and contribute to society. These often need trial and error and a healthy amount of privacy and autonomy. The question then becomes, what amount of privacy is a good amount? This is difficult to quantify, but we can agree that a reasonable amount is good. Privacy allows for peace of mind, happiness, and a healthy balance of power among individuals or groups. Privacy also allows for creativity to flourish. Privacy is also necessary for a healthy life with a sense of security. It is desired by most people to go to bed without your neighbors watching. We normally turn off lights and close window blinds when asleep. We like to sleep mostly off the ground and in a secure place. I believe this is an evolutionary trait with obvious practical reasons, remaining from our ancestors who dwelled among predators for many millennia. We surely may not be able to rest or sleep with strangers among us that may be watching. Most of us would see this as a threat. We prefer the company of people that we trust, generally family or close friends. Those near us that have no sympathy or share little or no personal connections to us may make us uneasy at the very least, insecure at worst. And I believe this is what privacy centers around, our security. Too often those that don't routinely share a space with us tend to not share our interests, and have little or no sympathy or compassion toward us. And those may exploit any information they gather about our private lives. Our private lives are called private, because we accept they must remain little known to those outside of our close personal networks. Our private lives include actions and routines that may be exploited by those that don't appreciate our personal worth. Things like our home locations, our exact daily routines, and our personal preferences are a few things most of us rather not share with the world outside of our personal group. This personal information may be exploited to undermine, disrupt, or even attack us, personally or in our communities. Historically, rivals took these actions, so we have evolved to be naturally distrustful of outsiders. I believe this distrust is a passed-down wisdom from former generations. Of course, too much distrust and unreasonable rejection leads to all sorts of problems such as unnecessary isolation, discrimination, and racism. But I believe a reasonable amount of precaution is necessary, evident in the common occurrence of all sorts of abuses and attacks, perpetrated by opportunistic and deceiving individuals and groups. When we remain comfortably private, we are happier. Some say that if you have nothing to hide, then why hide? This argument both misdefines privacy and misses the point of it. Being private is not hiding, it is having the choice to only allow those you trust to know in your private life or not. It is having the option to live whatever part of your life, outside of the peering watch of those you don't trust. Private matters may be the things you do in your bedroom, conversations you have with your close friend or partner, or the spoken details about your upcoming vacation trip. Companies know the importance of privacy when they develop innovative products or methods. These, and countless more, are desired to happen in the privacy of a safe place and away from known or unknown snoopers. Remaining private is an expectation that your trusted space remain as such, away from eyes and ears that may use your personal information for all sorts of ills. Ills may be as innocuous as a personal small smear or harmless gossip among neighbors, or it could lead to something as severe as a deadly attack. Having said this, I believe hiding information, especially that could benefit others, is not good. For example, withholding information about a possible hazard is clearly harmful to others. And this is different from withholding your geographic location from a social media platform that is looking to map out your travel routine to later sell it. So, withholding, lying, and covering up are not the same as remaining private and having respect for others' privacy. Furthermore, privacy is something that must be mutually agreed to by all parties. It is something that should be a guaranteed human right, and definitely so in free nations. The right to life, expression, and the pursuit of happiness are a few of the rights often cited supporting the right to privacy. I believe privacy incentivizes some types of creativity, ingenuity, and discovery. At times, work in certain fields and subject matters are not welcomed by society at large. Certain cultures may not allow or accept work on things that may turn out to be great benefits for humanity. History is replete with such examples. In the mid-1500s, Galileo Galilei was admonished by his government by the heresy of his study of astronomy. In the late 1500s, Giordano Bruno was executed by his community for his, thus far correct, then dangerous, propositions of an infinite universe and a multiplicity of worlds. In the 1960s, Dr. Martin Luther King was largely considered a communist and an extremist for his views on social justice, nonviolence, and opposition to the Vietnam War, all of which are now mostly accepted as positive world contributions. I believe that these, and countless other individuals, performed much of the work they contributed to society in the safety of their privacy, even when their outside communities largely opposed such work. I believe that the work of countless other scientists, artists, leaders, and influencers happened in privacy, with their work only being published when it was ready and with diminished chances of it being stopped by the ignorant and powerful. So, I believe we owe much good, in our history and present, to those brave individuals that worked on great advances for humanity in the safety of privacy. Yes, there are times that privacy necessitates strategic positioning which may appear as hiding, but when your personal safety and the fate of a great advance are on the line, this type of privacy is needed. The invasion of the privacy of those that are law-abiding and reasonable is potentially harmful for them because of the clear opportunity for abuse from invaders. They may collect your personal information without your knowledge, with the advantage of disassociation and indifference to you. For this, these people can act to harm you with little remorse. This has occurred repeatedly throughout recent history. This is an unnatural unbalance of power that is well known throughout the world, and it is why governments protect and attack privacy amongst themselves, often called espionage or intelligence. Lastly, without you knowing the intentions of others, your sense of security is undermined by violations of privacy. In the US and around the world, privacy has been treated as a privilege. But, since the law must assume your innocence until proven guilty, you should not be surveilled unless there is reasonable cause for suspicion. Again, privacy has been often unreasonably violated by individuals, groups, corporations, and governments, and those looking to do harm often utilize their right to privacy to operate covertly, such as police departments or government agencies. And apart from cases where reasonable causes exist, powerful individuals and governments often use legal loopholes and unreasonable and discriminatory practices to violate the privacy of other individuals and groups. To focus on privacy in the context of living off the grid, I will discuss the privacy of individuals, as opposed to larger groups. These few common players, in the routine violation of privacy of individuals, may violate your privacy for a variety of reasons: to gain personal advantages over you, social, political, etc., for economic gain, to undermine or discredit you for whatever reason, to steal proprietary information for a business advantage, extract your private data for their financial benefit, law enforcement, crime prevention, national defense, etc. Individuals and groups may target you for unreasonable surveillance of your private life because they may envy you in one or more aspects of your life, and they may want to gain advantage over you in a way to control you or undermine you. Socially, an individual may feel they want more power and may see you as a holder of power in an area of influence that you both may share. An individual may exploit information about your routines, location, and personal preferences and attempt to publicize that personal information or use it to publicly harm you. As a side note, everyone has information about past choices or happenings that are irrelevant about the present, but they may be seen as relevant by others. Such information may be unearthed by an individual looking to harm your reputation. This tactic is often used and has had differing levels of success, depending on many factors. Individuals and groups may get some personal information from you and exaggerate it to discredit you, and it may be believed by enough people to have a negative impact on you. For example, your personal political views may be discovered by snoopers and be broadcast in your community, which may not be welcoming of them, however positive they may be. This can cause distress and even danger to you and your loved ones. For example, in my current living environment, to display support for the current president, in any way, is to call dangerous attention for yourself and your loved ones. This tells me that I am surrounded by many violent fanatical individuals, often backed by law enforcement with similar views. In such an environment, acts of vandalism and violence are likely to happen and go unpunished. So, it is best for your political views to remain private. While unfortunate, it is best to avoid possible conflict. Individuals may target you to undermine you economically. Coworkers, business rivals may have economic interests opposed to yours. They may snoop on your private life to try to manipulate some of your financial decisions. They may try to discredit you using your private information, or to gain a financial advantage. While this is unlikely to affect off-gridders that choose to have less dependency on money, it may affect those with operations that actively use the monetary system, such as business owners. Rich and powerful individuals especially may engage in attacks of privacy onto those they determine to be out of line or disrespectful in some way. Often, powerful individuals and groups are intolerant of coexistence with others they believe to be potential threats to their financial future. Many of these individuals and groups have grown to be highly uncompassionate due to their runaway greed and lust for ever-growing power. Individuals and groups may attack your privacy because of hate and other discriminatory tendencies. Religious beliefs, race, culture, lifestyles, and more are all targets for discrimination by unreasonable individuals and groups. Neighbors may unreasonably keep a distrustful watch on neighbors of other backgrounds such as other race, religions, political affiliation, nationality, ethnicity, etc. They may try to listen in or look into their personal lives unreasonably. It may be to smear them in conversations among friends or worse. At times, hateful individuals have called the cops on others, in hopes to bring them major disruptions or even harm. These cases are quite common, and recently have been documented in videos on the internet. The so-called Karens and Kens are examples of these videoed instances, showcasing unreasonable and often violent discrimination and racism. One popular video is how a dog-walking Karen immediately calls the police on an African-American man sitting at the park and told them,
"He threatened my life,"
simply for the man filming her hostile interaction and telling her to keep her distance from him during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. In that case, Karen faced no legal repercussions for lying to the police about a situation, but did later lose her job and face social harm when the video got wildly popular. There are countless other instances of such blatant violations of privacy and attempts at harm due to all sorts of discriminatory behavior. And in the US especially, there seems to be no shortage of such bigoted people, including many who are willing to cause harm only because of their hatred toward others they deem lesser. Corporations may violate your privacy in attempts to gain business from you. They may gain personal and identifying information to advertise to you or directly sell you products or services. Corporations may call you or even pay you a visit at your home or place of work to sell you their product or service. Also, businesses are known to gather information on each other's products and services. If you are a business owner with an innovative or groundbreaking product or service, you may be targeted for information gathering by corporate or government interests. These efforts may be subtle, but there are many reports of intimidation and even extortion. Corporations and their agents may be aggressively territorial and greedy and may attempt to limit competition. While I believe in privacy, I also believe in the openness of ideas. Corporate secrecy often involves the withholding of useful ideas, technologies, and methods. I think this is mostly counterproductive, following the logic that if someone else is in a better position to capitalize on an idea, then by all means, they should. I believe it is quite rare for instances where your idea, method, and technology will be duplicated exactly by someone else. I believe the diversity of ideas is always helpful, and it is generally no different with corporate interests. As a side note, there are corporations that are specialized in collecting personal information and selling it to other corporations that can then use it to sell their products. Social media companies are the latest and most powerful of such corporations. Their main source of revenue is your personal data, which they collect basically through snooping on your posts and online activity. They encourage your activity by different methods, then monitor it, record it, package it. They then sell it to individuals, institutions, or other corporations for a profit. The high profits incentivize the social media companies to ask very few questions of the data purchasers. So, just about anyone with enough money can potentially buy your intimate and private data, collected by social media. Social media highly encourages their users to post as much about their life as possible. But even if you are careful about what you post, you generate all sorts of metadata in the process. For example, when you post a birthday wish for someone, you are potentially revealing or confirming your close connection to the person. That person's birthday, your location, their location, your online activity routine, your looks, dress, race, especially if you post a photo or video of yourself or others. Social media corporations may build a dossier about you, even over a short period of light online activity, then sell this information without your knowledge. They claim that you are warned about all of these details, and that you are able to control what you share. But they also know that most people don't read the hard-to-find fine print and terms of use. Additionally, they know that most people don't adjust the privacy settings to safeguard what they share. They count on you not reading these terms of use and then capitalize on it. Furthermore, social media companies carefully craft attractive online experiences for each user that promote feelings of engagement, trust, and security. These are clearly deceptive practices that enable blatant violations of the privacy of millions of people, without their knowledge. The recent social media disclosures, called the Facebook Papers, revealed, among other things, how the social media platform encouraged hateful, divisive, and extreme content to get more engagement from its users. This engagement, however negative, is more profitable. Big tech companies like Google, Microsoft, and Apple have cleverly moved into the realm of smartphones, and have used this technology to increasingly track your location, your map destinations, your searches, your interests, and many other habits. Again, with your personal data from these categories, big tech companies make money by selling your info to advertisers, other companies, or individuals, and advertising products and services directly to you. In some cases, your personal data may be turned over to the authorities or the government with perhaps very few questions asked. There are countless examples of this cozy and pal-like relationship between big tech and so-called authorities. In fact, big tech may turn a blind eye about known infiltrated agents within their ranks. Agents who likely siphon data out to their respective agencies for all sorts of shadowy reasons. Governments, the world over, violate our basic right to privacy for a variety of reasons, to include persecution. And their pretexts often cite vague reasons of defense and law enforcement. Many areas of the world don't even have constitutional freedoms that protect privacy, expression, and other rights. And even there, the government is allowed to freely snoop into the lives of just about anyone using social media, putting at risk many users in some nations. Even in so-called free nations, violations of privacy are perpetrated by the government, using feeble pretexts of prevention of crime, national security, countering misinformation, etc. For example, the revelations of Edward Snowden showed how U.S. agencies wholesale spied on the American population without the required warrants. Some preventive surveillance may be valid in a society riddled with guns, hatred, anger, and violent behaviors, but when surveillance is done in a carpet-cover fashion, many may fall victims to misidentifications. Even unwarranted charges and convictions may occur in a paranoid, surveillance state. Many innocents may be suspected, charged, and sometimes convicted of crimes they did not commit, because someone or some system pieced together plausible suspicion from routine actions of a surveilled individual. Suspicion is relative, and if paranoid or biased, you may suspect just about anyone who is doing just about anything. I believe there is a fine line to walk during any crime prevention surveillance. There are many ethical questions to answer and many biases to oppose. For example, what behaviors, words, or patterns are to be considered suspicious? What locations, items, and actions are worthy of surveillance? How does a suspect look, behave, or dress like? All these and more are subject to each individual's biases, which can be many. Biases can remain present even after rigorous training, and the influence of training may be less than that of other life experiences for law enforcers. This is a monstrous subject matter that spans psychology, sociology, criminal justice, and more. But I believe that society should determine what factors warrant surveillance, how much of it, and for how long. In general, I believe preventative surveillance should be strictly restricted and regulated, and it must be open to scrutiny by those potentially surveilled and regulators. It should not be up to a handful of specialists within a government agency to decide these things in secret. The U.S. has checks and balances for government surveillance in the form of warrant requirements. But these have become so routine and relaxed that they seem to be often just a nuisance, which agencies often ignore, bypass, get ex post facto, or just rubber stamp away. There are plenty of instances where the government has abused their power and violated the privacy of individuals with very little or no reasonable cause. National and local agencies fiddled through the social media accounts of countless protesters and protest organizers during the Black Lives Matter protests of 2020 to crack down or disrupt their constitutionally protected actions, the right of assembly, petition, and free speech. In the 1960s, Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X were spied on repeatedly by state and national agencies based on fabricated and exaggerated suspicions. And police and other agencies often finger through social media pages as well as discarded pieces of mail from individuals that are targeted for surveillance, often based on their affiliations and religion, race, ethnicity, nationality, or sexual orientation. Recently, police in Atlanta, Georgia spied on protesters against Cop City, the planned police facility that threatens the community and a local forest, and conducted deadly raids against them using the intelligence gathered through clear violations of privacy and other constitutionally protected rights. Cop City is believed to be ultimately utilized for further militarization and surveillance of the region, and is believed to harm the forest environment and the nearby communities in which it may be built. How living off-grid helps you claim your privacy. A mentality of efficiency begins to work on awareness and value for privacy. Efficiency is generally unwelcomed in the often wasteful cities, and rejected by those living a so-called normal life there. You will likely want to remain private because of this likely rejection. There may be cases where your safety may be threatened by authorities and angry, violent neighbors, simply because of your unusual lifestyle, however helpful it may be for you and the world. Working yourself free from the grid may not stop at disconnecting your utility services and getting out of debt. It will likely extend into freeing yourself from other types of abusive control and the constant surveillance present today. Again, you should be afforded reasonable privacy as long as you are a law-abiding and reasonable citizen. And your human and constitutional rights should be respected. Your society should not keep tabs on you and surveil you just in case you step out of line, or because they unreasonably suspect you of wrongdoing. You should be free of unreasonable suspicion, because otherwise you will remain in a child and parent relationship with a seriously flawed government and society. Those that may erroneously strike, due to a litany of possible biases and discriminatory assumptions. And such a government and society may choose to suppress anything that they deem a threat, although it may be perfectly legal, safe, and reasonable to most. While living off the grid or making efforts for it, you may notice the ways in which you are surveilled and controlled by companies and the government. But you may begin to take steps to get rid of those things that enable such surveillance and control. For example, an identification card, ID, is a representation of an affiliation with an entity and a certain degree of commitment and control given to that entity. A state ID is affiliated with that state, and that the state issues to you, so it has many of your updated personal identifiable information. This information is kept by the state to maintain a certain amount of control over you. They generally know where to find you, know your looks and other identifying biological and social data. Through your ID, the state may keep tabs on encounters you've had with law enforcement, big purchases you've made, jobs you have had, and any transaction where your state ID was verified. These records can be used to create a dossier which, again, gives the state certain power and control over you. Most of us are highly encouraged, even forced to enter this relationship with our states of residence, by exchanging that control for things like the ability to drive, rent an apartment, or apply for benefits or employment. You may ask,
what control can the state have over me? I feel free to do as I please as long as it is not illegal.
This argument is naive and erroneous, in that the state highly encourages you to work and pay taxes, and engage in all of the economic activities that generate that state wealth, such as purchasing food and fuel, paying rent or mortgage, and countless other paid activities. If that's not control, I'm not sure what is. These may only seem like free actions, to pay for just about everything, especially if you have lived in such an environment your entire life. But paying for everything is far from natural, as you have little or no choice but pay. This, to me, is clear evidence of manipulation and control by a series of artificial factors. You may choose to minimize or sever your commitment to any entity which controls you in any way, such as clubs, societies, communities, associations, or even your government, especially if the benefits you have exchanged for that control are wholly inadequate. For this, you may begin with simple accessible steps. For example, choose to turn off your GPS location service of your smartphone, to limit the surveillance by big tech and their countless apps on their platforms. You may also turn off your big tech affiliations and services altogether, and have them stop the tracking and surveillance of your online and real-world activities. You may also strongly petition your local government to take down surveillance cameras in your community, or alternatively, ask them to provide absolute transparency in their surveillance activities. You may also protest this type of surveillance. These and more are ways to begin to take control of your life while off the grid, and to claim and maintain your deserved and rightful privacy.